Smack It Off the Podcast is coming soon. Why would you assume something different? Smack It Off the Podcast is preparing now to tell you why your team is so horrendous. Oh dear, what a shame. Always the same game. Loser at all things. No luck that it brings. Fails at every try. Can't help but sigh. Clumsy and in wit. Can't seem to quit. Trips over on feet. Defeat is so sweet. Pathetic poor soul can't reach any goal. But hey, don't you fret. You're not beaten yet. Keep on trying, friend. Maybe luck will bend. Smack It Off the Podcast is coming soon. Why would you assume something different? Smack It Off the Podcast is preparing now to tell you why your team is so horrendous. Oh dear, what a shame. Always the same game. Loser at all things. No luck that it brings. Fails at every try. Can't help but sigh. Clumsy and in wit. Can't seem to quit. Trips over on feet. Defeat is so sweet. Pathetic poor soul can't reach any goal. But hey, don't you fret. You're not beaten yet. Keep on trying, friend. Maybe luck will bend. Trips over own feet. Defeat is so sweet. Pathetic poor soul can't reach any goal. But hey, don't you fret. You're not beaten yet. Keep on trying, friend. Maybe luck will bend. Trips over own feet. Defeat is so sweet. Pathetic poor soul can't reach any goal. But hey, don't you fret. You're not beaten yet. Keep on trying, friend. Maybe luck will bend. Trips over own feet. Defeat is so sweet. Pathetic poor soul can't reach any goal. But hey, don't you fret. You're not beaten yet. Keep on trying, friend. Maybe luck will bend. Trips over own feet. Defeat is so sweet. Pathetic poor soul can't reach any goal. But hey, don't you fret. You're not beaten yet. Keep on trying, friend. Maybe luck will bend. Smack It Off the Podcast is coming soon. Why would you assume something different? Smack It Off the Podcast is preparing now to tell you why your team is so horrendous. Oh dear, what a shame. Always the same game. Loser at all things. No luck that it brings. Fails at every try. Can't help but sigh. Clumsy and in wit. Can't seem to quit. Trips over on feet. Defeat is so sweet. Pathetic poor soul, can't reach any goal. But hey, don't you fret, you're not beaten yet. Keep on trying, friend, maybe luck will bend. Smack It Off the Podcast is coming soon. Why would you assume something different? Smack It Off the Podcast is preparing now to tell you why your team is so horrendous. Oh dear, what a shame. Always the same game. Loser at all things. No luck that it brings. Fails at every try. Can't help but sigh. Clumsy and dim-wit. Can't seem to quit. Trips over on feet. Defeat is so sweet. Pathetic poor soul, can't reach any goal. But hey, don't you fret, you're not beaten yet. Keep on trying, friend, maybe luck will bend. Trips over own feet, defeat is so sweet. Pathetic poor soul, can't reach any goal. But hey, don't you fret, you're not beaten yet. Keep on trying, friend, maybe luck will bend. Trips over own feet, defeat is so sweet. Pathetic poor soul, can't reach any goal. But hey, don't you fret, you're not beaten yet. Keep on trying, friend, maybe luck will bend. Trips over own feet, defeat is so sweet. Pathetic poor soul, can't reach any goal. But hey, don't you fret, you're not beaten yet. Keep on trying, friend, maybe luck will bend. Trips over own feet, defeat is so sweet. Pathetic poor soul, can't reach any goal. But hey, don't you fret, you're not beaten yet. Keep on trying, friend, maybe luck will bend. Smack It Off the Podcast is coming soon. Why would you assume something different? Smack It Off the Podcast is preparing now to tell you why your team is so horrendous. Oh dear, what a shame. Always the same game. Loser at all things. No luck that it brings. Fails at every try. Can't help but sigh. Clumsy and dim-wit. Can't seem to quit. Trips over on feet. Defeat is so sweet. Pathetic poor soul, can't reach any goal. But hey, don't you fret, you're not beaten yet. Keep on trying, friend, maybe luck will bend.
Dr. Balls is a presentation of Smacking Off the Podcast.
Dr. Balls in the house, what's going on? The doctor knows who's going down. Dr. Balls will know. Dr. Balls, Dr.
Everybody, welcome back to Smacking Off the Podcast.
What's up, Doc?
It's all about you, Big Daddy. How you doing?
I'm hanging.
He's hanging and banging, he says. Are you cold lamping too?
Am I
Oh, never mind.
what?
That's 80s Miami rap slang, cold lamping, right? Like I'm hanging out at night and I'm looking cold under the lamp on the strip at Miami Beach. Anyway,
Okay.
I was exposed to that in my life, Ed. Obviously, I'm not part of that culture, even though a bunch of my buddies are. But anyway, I thought you were that cool. But you are that cool, whether you've been cold lamping or not, Ed. You are that
Okay.
cool, man.
I appreciate
So,
that.
so is anybody else joining us on here, Ed? I think that Doug will be on here in a moment. And Nikki said that she had run home. And if it's just me and you, though, we can make this work. And you know why? Because college basketball is great.
Yes, it
And
is.
it's really heating up, Big Daddy. And we can talk about the championship game, what we thought about it, what we think it portends for the future, give our little angles on that. And I want to give you a shout out. I think Michigan's done pretty well in basketball, and I think it's a good turnaround for me, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, we got the right coach.
Oh, absolutely.
And, I think 3 losses by a total 5 points. Almost lost to Northwestern the other day, which shouldn't have happened. But, I mean, Northwestern's decent, but.
Yeah, they've had their moments, but they've never exactly been a barn-burning team over the years. But it's going to happen, man. It's hard to play consistent basketball through the season, especially since they're so long now. You know, by the time
Yeah.
you've been to tournament, it's like 41 games, and it's hard to keep that up. And now, one of the differences between Michigan and Kentucky is Michigan's more balanced than Kentucky, and if they have a bad shooting night, it don't necessarily mean they're for sure going to lose. Whereas if UK, if they have a bad shooting out, they're probably going to lose. You know.
We could
So
do
hats off.
a
Hats
little
off.
more athleticism. I saw in that Arkansas game, Arkansas has some athletes. I know they're not playing great, but they've got some good athletes.
Oh, Arkansas. Well, they took the athletes from Kentucky with them to Arkansas, but
Yep.
he's in 1-5 in conference play, Coach Calipari, and of course that was a big part of trying to run him off from Kentucky since we had our worst tournament losses in history under him.
He may
But
not have it anymore.
no, he's resistant to change, and he's very much. I think he's like Coach Boeheim at Syracuse a lot, Ed.
What
And
caused Boeheim to leave? Did he leave on his own, or was he kind of pushed?
now I've heard he was pushed, especially in regards to the scandal that happened under his watch. But it was hard to get rid of him due to his contract, his popularity among the fans,
Yeah.
and then they eventually moved him out. Now Boeheim had teams that could have won, and throughout his tenure, he had probably 10 teams that could have won the championship and had the talent to do it. But the problem was, just like Calipari, Boeheim was inflexible, and Boeheim only run the 2-3 zone, right? Well, when all you run is the 2-3 zone, all it takes is one white boy from a cornfield in Indiana, and your season is over. Right?
I mean, the zone. I thought wasn't it a matchup zone they played?
No, that was John Chaney at Temple played the matchup zone.
But I mean that zone did serve them well in some years where they weren't quite as talented and they made a run.
Oh, I agree. And not only that, it allowed the team to get a consistent amount of wins, because if you play a good 2-3 zone, you're going to win 80% of the games with the talent that he had any way it goes.
Right.
But
Right.
when the other team is hitting it on fire, it has no answer. Right? And you've got to be able to switch to whatever it takes at that point.
That's very true.
Yeah, and that's the difference between Tubby Smith and Calipari. So if you look on paper, Tubby Smith and Calipari have almost exactly the same results, only Tubby Smith didn't have ignominious defeats in the NCAA tournament. But the results are almost exactly the same. And Tubby Smith, because he was a disciplinarian, never had the kind of recruits Calipari did. And but he was a great game coach. During the game, he would make adjustments that were great adjustments. And Calipari done less with more than anybody I've seen in the college basketball ranks, whereas Tubby Smith did as much with less as anybody I ever saw. And
he didn't
really,
do a lot after he left Kentucky. He had limited success at Minnesota, I believe.
Yeah, I was going to go to that. Now, I found that interesting, but I wasn't surprised because, like you said, he couldn't get national recruits because he's a disciplinarian.
Yeah.
And then Minnesota's
going to be even harder now. It'll be interesting. I mean, I know we're talking hoops, but be very interesting to see how Belichick does in Carolina, because with the NIL and all that sort of stuff, and him my way or the highway.
Well, I believe actually the NIL and the my way the highway is actually going to work for his style, because he will tell them my way or the highway, and he will tell them they have to do their job because they're getting paid through NIL, right? And he hired an NFL GM to run NIL. And I believe he's going to hire a staff that's come out of hand, and he's going to be a dictator like Bear Bryant was, and be watching from on top of his ivory tower to see how things goes, and then step his heavy foot in. And I think it's going to have immediate results for North Carolina. I think they could have proved 8-4 or 9-3 in the first season just based on that.
He's got one big advantage because he can tell his players, I can get you to the league.
Yes, because he can get you to the league. And that was Calipari's advantage. Calipari said, hey, man, I can get you to the league. I got the connections. I got the name, right?
Yep.
And he was getting players in the league but wasn't hanging any banners. But I believe that Belichick is not just a showman, that he's a winner. And that if he stays there long enough, which I don't have no idea how long that he would stay at North Carolina. Is it an amusement to him? Is he totally committed to it? I mean, how long do you think he'll coach at North Carolina?
3-4 years, because he got that young girlfriend that's a temptation. And
Ooh.
I mean, it's a temptation to hang it up.
Yeah, it's true, but she may like the life there around North Carolina. I know beach life around North Carolina is pretty sporty. And
Yeah.
it's a hell of a lot cheaper to live in North Carolina than it is Massachusetts. I guarantee you that.
Oh my God, yeah.
And what you can get for your money in North Carolina for what he could get for a nice place up there, hell, he have a palatial southern mansion to boggle your imagination in North Carolina. People waiting on him hand and foot. He really will be like Verbo and dictate how you got to go in his crib, right? You ever see the commercial?
There's a couple of really good biscuit places in Chapel Hill.
Yes. Now, notice I just got a message from Doug saying his mic's working, but still no one hears me. So I'm going to message him. Now, Doug, if you can hear me, I'm getting ready to message you that what do you think the solution can be? Let's see. So we're going to message, but yes, Chapel Hill's nice, man. The whole Tobacco Road area is nice.
Hello?
Is that you, Doug?
No, it's Sean.
John, what's up?
What's going on?
Sean, I'm glad to hear you on the show. We're talking college basketball. Doug's having some difficulties. He says that that his mic isn't on, and we haven't heard him yet. So I don't know if you heard, but we've been talking about.
It's what he said. He says that it's showing that his microphone is on, but none of us hear him because he's been trying to talk.
Well, that's true because I've been waiting on him. I've been trying to keep us alive until
Get out and get back in.
I've been listening to you and Ed. It's good discourse, though. I might offer not so fast, my friend, on is Michigan basketball back just yet. One quality win thus far says not so fast. We'll find out if they're the real deal this weekend at at Mackey Gym down in West Lafayette.
Well,
Oh yeah,
they're
yeah. I
back
don't know that
because they have been competitive in every game.
They have, but they haven't really beat anybody of note.
The other thing
Well-
that makes them back, they are absolutely going to the tournament.
Most likely, but that doesn't mean much. The Big Ten and the SEC always get too many bids. We know that.
even more so this year, I'm sure. And I don't think that Michigan's a true contender. And I don't just like UK. I don't think they're a true contender. But I think
I
that
think
they're going to.
Kentucky's more of a true contender than Michigan is. I've watched both teams.
Well,
and
that's
the
probably
SEC is a
true.
better conference top to bottom this year than the Big Ten is. That's for sure.
I'll agree with that.
But
the SEC,
I do think it's
SEC is rugged. I mean, who's the worst team in the SEC right now? Vanderbilt, Arkansas, and they're pretty good teams.
South Carolina.
I mean, South Carolina is the worst, and they're still above 500.
Yeah,
That's
but
the
it's
worst team.
it's a tough conference. But it is an improvement for Michigan, and it is an improvement for UK. And I predict.
Well, Michigan had nowhere to go but up. All they had to do was hire a coach with a pulse.
I agree with you on that, Sean.
Let's stop hitting the opposing coaches.
You're
We all
right.
get upset, but you can't slap the other team's coach. You know.
Man, if you got that
the new
dream
coach of
gig.
Michigan's very good. We knew he was very good from his previous location. Got that team. It's escaping my mind at the moment to a couple of tournament appearances. So, yeah, they're not fully back, but they'll be back in a year or two once he builds his program.
Now, Sean, I got to ask you, did you hear our discourse about Belichick? What's your thoughts on Belichick at North Carolina? I got to know.
I agree with you, Bob. I think he'll have success there because it will be his way or the highway, and you kind of know you know why you're going there. It's to try to win him football games and him to try to put you in the NFL.
I think
he
Doug
knows
is
how
with
to do that. He's had success. I don't think he will be there as long as Ed portends. I could see 2 years at most until somebody in the NFL gives him a phone call because he's not far away from breaking Don Shula's all-time wins mark. That's really the last thing he has to do in the NFL to be considered the greatest coach of all time. Which
What
some
about
already
Belichick
do.
to Miami? What about
What's
Belichick
that?
to Miami?
Belichick could. Well, I mean, there's a number of still open head coaching spots in the NFL that you kind of question some of the candidates these teams are going to hire. Right now, I mean the leader in the clubhouse for the Cowboy job is Brian Schottenheimer, and I don't think that's a very good move for Jerry and company. But
It's about as unproven as you can get.
yeah,
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
hey,
I got you, Doug.
Sorry,
What's up,
I fell asleep, guys. No, I'm just messing with you. My microphone fell asleep.
Oh goodness!
I mean,
I'm glad you let her roll because I'm glad
Belichick
you let
might
her
be
roll.
good for the Cowboys, but Jerry's just not going to give up.
Yeah,
spotlight.
Jerry's got the control, so that's not a destination for Belichick because Belichick's going to want to bring in his players, and Jerry wants to draft and bring in his players via free agency. So, but the Raiders gig is still open.
I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. Would the Raiders give Belichick complete control?
He would work in conjunction. The Raiders just hired their general manager yesterday, and I don't know if he is wanting to go in that direction. But right now, you kind of look at the guys available, and you go, "Well, Belichick's vastly more qualified than anybody else that's left on the board." The new kind of young guns that were wanted have already been hired, and Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, those guys are off the board. Vrabel, the other proven coach, he's off the board. He's with New England. So
would be walking into a similar situation that he left in New England.
sure, but I mean, it's not like he's not going to be able to win a few games. And his only goal, I mean, he doesn't need more rings. I mean, he's got 6 of them. Is just to get the total wins record, and he's not that far away from tying and breaking Don Shula's record.
Now, Doc, I'm curious about this. So, if you measure a program's greatness in Super Bowls, do the Patriots truly, as a complete history of their franchise, measure up to the Steelers, the 49ers?
If you just go by Super Bowls, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, they're tied with New England and Pittsburgh, and I think are the only 2 with 6, right, Ed?
No, I think the San Francisco have 6 as well.
No, San Francisco's got 5, like Dallas.
Oh, okay.
I thought they had
Dallas.
7.
What's that?
I thought they had 7.
Who?
New England.
Is it 7?
No.
Brady got
Brady
7
had
with
7.
Tampa
Sorry.
Bay.
Yeah,
Brady's got 7 rings, but he got that last one with
Tampa.
the Bucs.
Tampa Bay. But as far as Super Bowls, I would say yes, Bob. But as far as other than this 20-year run with Belichick and Brady, the other history of the Patriots has been pretty lackluster. Whereas the Steelers, even though they haven't won rings as of late, continue to make the playoffs, have a winning record every year. I would say the Steelers are probably still in the Super Bowl era, the top franchise in the NFL as far as the Super Bowl era. All time, if you take in NFL championships before the Super Bowl, you'd probably have to talk about the Packers then.
And every single one of the Super Bowls the Patriots won was a close game.
But, Belichick's – I'm still shocked that he chose to go to the college route, other than we mentioned his girlfriend is of that age group, and North Carolina, Chapel Hill is a great place to be. But I don't think he'll make it 3 to 4 years like Ed is surmising. It just seems like too long for him to be in the college game. And he's never shown an interest in the college game.
Yeah, but he might just want to be the greatest in that too, though. I mean, there's people that have drive like that,
Well, I mean, if he wins a national championship there, he'd be already the greatest North Carolina football head coach of all time. But 2, I mean, he would join that group of 3 guys that have won a Super Bowl and won a national championship.
It's very rare.
Very small group.
Let me play devil's advocate, though. The fact of the matter is,
Jimmy
Belichick-
Johnson, Barry Switzer, and Pete Carroll.
Belichick has never won
And
anything.
Pete Carroll's looking for jobs, both college and NFL. He's out there doing interviews too.
If you were Marshall, you would try to hire him and just see if he would buy it. After what just happened to him, their whole team transferring along with the coach. It'd be, if I was Marshall, I would go after him just as a bold move. And I think that he might be, kind of needing to retire. But if he went to Marshall, he would dominate that conference, I believe, just on pure recruiting.
Probably because he'd have the selling point of I can win you a national title, I can win you a Super Bowl. And he's got that panache, but I don't see Pete Carroll, L.A. Pete, glitz and glam fitting in West Virginia. I don't know about you guys.
No, they would put him up in one of those big plantation houses near the Greenbrier. He'd be living like the king of England, I guarantee he would be standing in Huntington.
I would say the Greenbrier is lovely. I will say that.
You ever been under? Do you know what's happening underneath the Greenbrier, Sean?
What's the newest development? I haven't been there in a few years.
Oh, this isn't a new development. All right. So what's happening under the Greenbrier is, and the only reason I can tell you this is because things have changed. But what's happening under the Greenbrier is a whole seat of government set up for the entire Congress and the executive branch a bunch of Nortel switching equipment to provide them communication that's buried in a bunker under the hotel hundreds of feet underground. Now that's no longer open. Now I can talk about it, right? But that's what was happening under the Greenbrier Hotel.
Well, that's if you gotta, exfil and get somewhere else. That's not a bad place to be. That area of West Virginia is beautiful, and the Greenbrier is a hell of a property. That used to host a PGA Tour event for many years until the what was it, 5 or 6 years ago? They had those storms that washed everything out. Rain, that rain that came through that just wouldn't stop, flooded everything, and they couldn't hold the tournament that year, and unfortunately the sponsor backed out, and they haven't been back. But the Greenbrier is a lovely location, beautiful area, particularly the late summer into the early fall. It is quite
Amazing.
beautiful there. Great country.
It's amazing. And I've fished the Greenbrier River and some of the tributaries many times, and it's great trout and smallmouth fishing. I highly recommend it to anybody. So,
Yeah,
Big
everybody
Doug,
should take a vacation to there if they get a chance.
I agree. So, hey, Big Doug, so how you feel about Alabama beating Kentucky?
I'm happy about it. Anytime Alabama beats Kentucky, I'm fucking happy. I'm a pessimist when it comes to the basketball. I'm watching this. I see Alabama's the top 4 team. Somebody had posted something and said they were tier 1. I'm not buying that because I've seen it too many times, and it just don't work out like that. But we'll see. I mean, Alabama made their first they made their first Final Four last year. I'm having fun watching Alabama basketball. That's
Hell
all
yeah,
I
and I
can say.
thought that was a great game. I mean, and Corey Sears proved why he's one of the best players in the country and how important a point guard is to a team. And Nelson had a big game. They showed toughness and grit in a hostile environment. Hats off to Alabama for winning a great game. And they, when Kentucky loses, it exposes their weaknesses, which Alabama is well coached and they work on, which is a lack of focus on defense and rebounding. And when Kentucky's not hot from the 3, they're not going to beat teams of the caliber of Alabama. They started out the game hot and was able to stay in it, but Alabama, to their credit, played a great game, and they were well coached. And like I said, hats off to them. And I can't wait to see what's the next matchup between them and Auburn. I'm really excited for that one
I was just going
myself.
to say, the game we're most excited for is the Hardwood Iron Bowl, man. Those games are going to be awesome.
Yeah, I don't think either one of them happened yet. So
No.
I think the first one's coming here pretty soon, I believe, and it's at Auburn, I believe.
Yeah, I may have. Yes. And
How excited are we to see Auburn as the number 1 team right now in January? And we know Bruce Pearl is going to choke when it comes to March.
I'm about as excited as if I had a pecker infection or something, right?
yeah, it just proves if you play the players openly.
Sorry, that's a scientific term. What's the street term for a pecker infection?
Gonorrhea?
No.
Drip at a plus, go see the doctor.
Yep.
Can I tell a story about that? Right.
Hey,
Did Ed fall off?
No,
Ed.
I'm right here.
No, there's
Yeah,
Ed.
it's the weirdest thing. Tonight, I can only get 3 people up here, and everybody's your camera's off, Sean, but you've been in here all along. Your little
icon.
your little section of the screen, but I cannot get 4 people in here. So I had Ed in, and then he popped out again. But we can still hear Ed when he pops out. So fuck them. They think they're fucking with us, but that shit rolls right off, right?
Well, what does Ed think about the SEC basketball? Have you watched any Ed, or are you just solely watching Big Ten?
No, I watch as much as I can. I mean, it is a grueling conference. I agree with what you said earlier. It is the best conference in the country.
Well, yeah, that was my take, is to go ahead and give a shout out to all the SEC homers. You had a bad fucking football year for SEC football. It was terrible, but there's 8 SEC teams in the top 16 right now.
I was just looking. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams in the top 25 of the SEC, and you could argue that Vanderbilt potentially should also be in the top 25. They're 15-4, and right now they're on the bubble as far as bubble watch. I know it's early to start talking about that, but it really isn't because we're only 8 weeks away from Selection Sunday for March Madness. Can you believe it, fellas?
It's amazing.
Love
It's
it.
amazing. That means I'm 8 weeks away from being able to wade to Smallmouth Creek. Do you know how special it's going to be to stick my feet onto that limestone bottom in that cold water and that crystal clear water and throw my little Rapala out there and wiggle it and see if I want a smallmouth and go and smack that motherfucker? It's really important.
So is that what it means when March Madness is coming? You go ahead and associate that with fly fishing?
No, I don't. I mean, I do fly fish, but what I fish is I've got a custom 7.5 foot long boron ultralight with a little tiny Shimano reel about this big and
Yeah.
4 pound test, right? And a little tiny Rapala about this big.
Are you the type that goes out early and then you catch your own breakfast?
Oh yeah, right across the road over here.
I mean, I would be all about that shit. I don't really eat fish though. I'd have to run down to the McDonald's and get me a freaking egg McMuffin.
Oh, fish is good. Fish is good for you.
What about the McDoubles, man?
Oh my God. The double fish filet of fish is one of my favorite things of all time. If I could have one faxed to me like Star Trek right this moment, I would eat it.
Is that really fish, Bob?
It's like fish mulch that's been compressed together.
It's fish mulch. That sounds delicious, Bob.
God, I know, but I love them. I can't deny the filet of fish is one of my favorite. The double filet of fish.
I love a good fillet of fish. I don't care what it is. Yeah. So if you're doing breakfast, Doug, I mean, you're in the part of the country where you can get Bojangles breakfast, and I'd take that over Mickey D's. That's just me.
I don't know.
Oh,
I kind of like the McRib, man. That's the
now Hardee's. Have y'all ever had Hardee's
I'm
breakfast?
talking breakfast. Now you threw McRib in. That's a game changer right there.
I mean, you can't eat that shit if you got a white shirt on or
No.
or if you're driving.
No.
All right, McDonald's, you owe us money, McDonald's.
Yeah, shout
We
out
mentioned you.
Golden Arches.
I'm a big fan of that BK King with bacon.
Well, the problem down here, Ed, in Alabama, is that the every Burger King is run so poorly that I avoid every one of them that I know of, because I ain't got an hour to go through a line or try to get an order, and it's that bad down here.
That's an hour? Jeez, that's terrible.
Well, I'm never rode it for an hour, but I feel that's where it's headed. But when I leave 35 minutes later.
But no, the crazy thing is we get transition back to basketball is with how good the SEC is, and then obviously we have the other power conferences that, normally the last few years, the best of the power conferences has been the Big 12. They're having I don't want to quite call it a down year, but more of just a mediocre year, kind of year. But
because nobody's great, they're going to beat each other up.
No, nobody's really great, but other than Iowa State I do think is great. But they have yet to really have a big game where they can prove that. But I do think they are great. But the thing about it is, though, with the power conferences, there are going to be a lot of teams this year, I think, that might get screwed come Selection Sunday on the bubble. Because remember, we got 31 auto bids, which leaves only 37 at-large bids. So I think they're going to be at least.
It's that way every year, Sean.
I know that's true, but like in most years, there's like 4 to maybe 8 teams that have a legitimate beef that end up in the NIT tournament. But this year, I think there could be between 12 and 18 teams that have legitimate gripes to be in the NCAA tournament that don't get in. Let's
talk about that, because I'm looking right now, and you've got VCU, and you've got George Mason, right? That's one. In the Atlantic 10, St. Louis.
They're the
all-
ones that are going to get screwed.
yeah, those are the kind of teams that
I mean, I could see, some teams even in the Big Ten not make, like right now. I don't know if UCLA is in.
They're on the bubble.
They're definitely on the bubble. I mean, USC and Penn State are on the bubble.
What happened to that USC coach, Andy something? Did he get fired?
I'd have to look. You're the Big Ten guy, Ed. You're supposed to tell us that.
Right?
I suppose I am.
Let's see what we can find out about USC. Let's see. News. Juwan Gray, Millard, column. USC gets another big win, takes down Nebraska on the road. Let's see. I'm going to Google that one. Let's see. Who's the coach at USC? Now, I find USC interesting because Musselman. Oh, yeah. Well, Musselman's been a good coach before the past. I mean, I don't know that he's turned around a program completely, but he's been successful at him before. And Musselman ain't a bad coach. He's a solid coach.
No, he's not a bad coach at all.
He's a little
No.
too shouty for my taste, but he is a good coach.
Yeah, so they got a chance, but if they're not doing well, there's got to be something fit or roster-wise going on. And the Big Ten's we've got these super conferences. It's going to be tougher to get to the top of them, that's for sure. And tiers are going to develop, and
I mean,
it
right
may
now
take.
there are 6 Big Ten teams ranked, and I would argue those 6 for sure will get in. But will the Big Ten get the benefit of the doubt, so to speak, and get some of these bubble guys in? I don't know. I think it's going to depend on what shakes out with some of these smaller conferences. You got to hope that the team that's the best in these smaller conferences, the chalk holds and they win their conference tournament. So you don't have, bracket busters, bubble busters, that is to say, stealing spots.
Well, look at a team like Maryland. They're a lot better than last year, but their conference record is very average, and they can't afford, maybe at 8-10, or do they have 20 games now? 20 conference.
I think the Big Ten is playing 20 games now, but yeah, Maryland needs to be better than 500 to get in my opinion. They're sitting at 500 right now, but they need to be at least, if they're one game over 500 in conference, I think they'll get in, because they're non-conference, they were very good. And I think they're a good team, to be honest with you. I would like to see Maryland in the tournament.
Now, I think that North Texas is a potential bracket buster.
Big time. Big time. I completely agree with you there. What was another one I was looking at? You mentioned it earlier. It was George Mason. George Mason's
Mason
leading the Atlantic 10, but sneaking around, man. And they don't have a great overall record, 12-7. But watch out for St. Louis, the Billikens. They might steal that Atlantic 10 berth. And you wonder how many teams the Atlantic 10 will get in this year, because that's a sneaky good league that doesn't get talked about enough. They got a lot of teams in that league that are over 500. The problem is a lot of them are 500 or worse in conference, and that speaks to how good that conference is. It really is a good conference. It just does not get a lot of.
It don't get as much press as it needs to. And Dayton's also a team in that conference that could do something.
Dayton is having, for them in that conference, a down year. They're sitting at 500 in conference right now, but they're 13-6 overall, and they're middle of the pack in the conference. Same with Loyola, Chicago, St. Bonaventure. These are programs we've talked about in the past being in March Madness, and right now, I don't think they're in. They wouldn't be in if
they would be in today. No, but they could. I think they could get on a hot streak and do it. It all depends on how the schedule, because I think their schedule was front loaded in the conference pretty strong. So they but
Hey,
yeah,
do you,
the Atlantic 10 to me is an intriguing conference, and
now, Bob, you
the
mentioned North Texas, which is in the AAC. They're leading that
yeah,
conference right now.
right.
They are not ranked. The only team that's ranked in that conference, and they got to win tonight, is Memphis. Memphis is 24th in the country. They beat Wichita State tonight, but Memphis right now is technically third in the conference, which is crazy
Yeah,
to me because I think Memphis really is the best team in that conference.
they on paper they are. I mean, I don't really know how good a coach Hardaway is. I know he's an awesome recruiter, and they've probably got a talent boost over the other players. And but I just don't know how good he is. I want to give him a chance though because he's a great point guard, and point guard that could see the floor well should be able to coach. But I think he was a 1-4 style point guard, and it was all about him.
Well,
You know, like,
we've talked about this in years past on the Dr. Ball segment, but when March rolls around, you know what you got to have? Got to have the guards.
He's got to have the guard.
Guard play in March becomes, you can win in February and January without guard play being great, but when March rolls around, your guards got to be great. And that's why I think Alabama has a great shot because I love the way their guards are playing right now.
Absolutely. In Tennessee, Ziegler's a hell of a player. Auburn has solid guards, and they're winning without Broome. But I find this ironic is that Broome transfers from Morehead State, right? And to go to Auburn.
State.
Yeah.
Morehead State.
Oh, we love Morehead State. My wife is a Morehead State alumni, actually.
Right, there we go.
And they, so anyway, yeah, she really is. I just joke. Anyway, so Broome goes to Auburn, and he's obviously a very solid fundamental player, and he's got a lot of heart and all that, and he's being well celebrated right now. But Morehead's leaving their league without him.
Yeah, well, I mean, Morehead State, that's a great program, man. A mid-major, they always find players. Shout out to their recruiting and development, coaches, because they're always there in their conference. They're great at finding players that might have been overlooked by the bigger programs, and they get there to Morehead State, and Morehead State's competitive, man. They're always competitive. So
here's what's happening for Morehead State, and their only real rival recruiting wise nearby is Marshall. But Marshall isn't really recruiting the same guys they are. Marshall's recruiting a lot of home state guys and even a few from my hometown here. But what Morehead does a lot is recruit for players from right here in my area that's overlooked by the press and the media. And the only way you're really going to get recruited out of Eastern Kentucky or Appalachia is if you win the Sweet 16, which is hard to do for our schools, or you go to the Sweet 16 or you have big wins against the Lexington and Louisville schools, right? Because they here in the mountains, they don't care nothing about you. The world ends at Winchester. So if you live in Lexington or Louisville, right, in your world, the world ends at Winchester, right? And you don't know nothing about what's happening out here or care about it, right? So the only way to get recruited out of here is go to the tournament. And then you got the demographics here. So the demographics say that our players don't look like the inner city players. So therefore, there's not a whole lot of expectations to it. So let's just say you did make the Sweet 16, right? In which at Rupp Arena, and so you did make the Sweet 16, and you're averaging 40 points a game for Boyd County, right? And you get to the tournament, and you lose in the second round to Louisville Male because you're all they had, right? Well, they said, "Oh, that guy's just a great shooter. He'll never play in the NCAA." So it's hard for guys to break through here when they're great. They're truly great, but it's hard for us to break through. Morehead knows that. They live here with us. They exist to serve Appalachia, right? So we're saying, well, we want these guys. They can play. They got great fundamentals, and most of all, in the modern basketball area, they're great shooters.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, I look at the Ohio Valley Conference, and the one that always, that speaks to me that I always see kind of at the top is Morehead State. I mean, I expect them to win the conference.
Murray State.
What's that?
Are you sure you don't mean Murray?
Murray's a good team too.
Murray State's not in that conference.
Not anymore.
Yeah, they moved.
Right.
Yeah, no, they like right now. Morehead State's at the top of that league. In second is Little Rock, University of Little Rock. I would be hard pressed. I'm looking at it right now. I'd be hard pressed to think anyone other than Morehead State is coming out of the Ohio Valley Conference this year.
No, that's one big league this year. It's a one big league this year.
It's one bid league, and Morehead State's really the only one that's shown me anything. You know, maybe they get pressed by. I don't think it's going to be Little Rock. I think the only team that might press them is SIU, Southern Illinois, Edwardsville. But I would be shocked if Morehead State doesn't win that league, and it's going to be a one bid league, like Dr. Ball says. Now, are there any other teams that are? We'll talk small bid teams that are surprising that you think are going to potentially upset the apple cart?
Bellarmine, maybe.
Bellarmine's struggling, man. They are struggling.
Yeah, they're struggling. They got, well, I'm really thinking about their future, but let's look in the Colonial League. Colonial Athletic League usually has pretty College of Charleston. I'm going to throw out College of Charleston as being a team that could break through and have a tournament run and do something. And they've got a great tradition, actually, College of Charleston. And they've got a chance, in my opinion. If you go to Conference USA, Middle Tennessee, and UTEP, I don't know that that's a too big league.
I agree with you with Charleston. I think Charleston's going to win that league. I would be shocked if they don't. My team in that league is not doing so hot this year. They've popped in a couple times over the last 10 years. That's the Drexel Dragons, but Drexel's not having a very good year in that league. But yeah, I think Charleston will probably be there. What league do you want to go to next, Dr. Ball?
Let's see. If we go to, that's Conference USA, UTEP, and Middle Tennessee are in a dogfight for the league, in my opinion, right? And New Mexico State has a chance, even though their non-conference wasn't very good to them. But they did play some tough teams. So if it comes down to a selection or not, I don't know if it's a two-bid league, but if it came down to a selection or not, and New Mexico State made the conference championship game, they'd have a chance due to the fact that their non-conference schedule was tough.
New Mexico State's historically real tough in their conference champ tournament.
I'm with Bob though. I like UTEP. I think UTEP, which formerly used to be Texas Western, Glory Road. Remember that movie when they upset Kentucky? Sorry, Bob. Pat Riley was on that team. So anytime Pat Riley has a frown on his face, I'm okay with that.
So hold on. So hold on. The upset of Kentucky happened in a movie?
Well, in real life, then they made a movie about it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So even if it was in a movie script, Bob would have been mad about it, even if it was just in the movie script, wouldn't you?
Where was that game played? No Googling.
Oh, that's a great question, Ed. Talking the championship game?
Yep.
At Maryland?
Goldfield House.
Oh, Bob, well done, man. Nicely done. Well, the building formerly, Maryland doesn't use it anymore, right?
No, they're at the Well, I don't think it was torn down. I haven't been on campus in a long time, but they're playing at the Comcast Center.
I think just the Lady Terrapins play there now, right?
No, they play at Comcast.
Who's using cold? It didn't get torn down. I know that.
I mean, they can have like track events and shit like that.
Maybe volleyball.
Yeah, stuff like that.
But that Texas Western team upset that great Kentucky, that Adolph Rupp team with Pat Riley, and after Pat
Larry
Riley,
Conley from my hometown.
There you go. Yeah. And I'm always good at seeing Pat Riley frown because he was with the Lakers and the Knicks. So screw you, Pat Riley.
Now, Pat Riley's an example of a point guard that became a great NBA coach because he was a team player and he could see the floor. And I found it interesting as far as becoming a coach after having been a point guard that Isaiah Thomas was unable to be successful at it, right? And I don't think that he played all about him at Detroit. I think that he really did share the ball and he's seen the floor, but I don't think he's seen the game. And I'm shocked when great point guards don't make good coaches. I felt Mark Jackson was a solid coach. And to me,
But
guys
alpha
like
male players don't always make good coaches.
I think Isaiah might have had other things on his mind.
yeah, that's probably true. But I was disappointed because I was an Isaiah Thomas fan. I'd see Isaiah Thomas make a move on TV, and I'd run outside and try it. You know,
He was a hell of a point guard, no doubt. Absolutely.
One of my game personally. I did everything I could as I was coming up to emulate him and Kyle Macy and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. I thought they were the best players in the world, even in college, and I thought they were the best players I'd seen to that point, and so I tried to be like him. You know,
Kyle Macy couldn't miss a free throw if he tried.
No, especially if the game was on the line. He did it. Kyle Macy was the most solid fundamental point guard that I ever saw.
I'll give you a small team that I think right now they're sitting second in their conference, but I think they're going to win their conference when push comes to shove as we get closer to, nut crunching time. That is the last 3 weeks of February. Bradley is leading the Missouri Valley right now. But if I'm putting money on any team to win the Missouri Valley, I like Drake. I've liked Drake for a few years. Drake's one game behind Bradley. But when Arch Madness comes around, which is the Missouri Valley's tournament in St. Louis, I think Drake will end up winning that. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if Northern Iowa is always a pain in everyone's butt. So watch out for Northern Iowa. But I still think I like Drake to win the Missouri Valley Conference tournament at Arch Madness in St. Louis.
I can see that. And Belmont's what I meant to say earlier. I don't know why I said Bellarmine because I read something on Bellarmine earlier. But Belmont has a chance, and that could be a two-bid league this year.
I think they deserve to be. If they don't, it's simply because, these are small market kind of teams, which is unfortunate, but it is the business of the day. It's based on television and getting eyeballs on TVs and, having one more Big Ten team versus a Missouri Valley team. I mean, it is what it is. It's just reality.
Yeah, it's true. But people love the little boys in the season. That's true. But in the NCAA tournament, now in the championship games, it plays out just like you say. Everybody wants big, unless it's some kind of absolute David versus Goliath matchup. People, the big markets usually rule, or the big blue bloods usually rule the ratings. But during the tournament,
was 2 years ago, Bob, so we had all these awesome upsets, which everyone loves in the first week of the tournament. But then we got to Final Four weekend, and there was only one big name, and the ratings were way down because, no one wanted to watch these small schools in the Final Four. So TV has figured out, we want some upsets in round one, maybe even round two. But once the Sweet 16 rolls around, we'd really rather have those big programs because we know eyeballs are going to be on those games if they're big programs.
Now, you could create legends, though, coming out of a small league or a small program, as seen by Loyola Marymount and UNLV back in the day. And
go all the way back, your guy, Larry Bird. I mean, Indiana State come out of nowhere to play Michigan State in the championship game. Now, you need a player of Larry Bird's caliber to make that happen, but,
it's been known to go on.
If they know that people will watch a small school if they know they got a superstar on that team.
Absolutely. And everybody loves superstars. They love David versus Goliath's matchup, but they also love money and they love huge markets. Now
what they don't want to see is what's happened the last 2 years, which is, even in the championship games, UConn has kind of smacked their opponents down. I mean, the last two championship games haven't been what you'd call close, unless you disagree with me. But at no point did I think UConn was going to lose the last 2 years. At no point.
I still believe they have the best coach in the country and that they're not done yet.
Yeah, I think they have the best coach, even though I don't like him. He's an angry little elf.
I don't like him either, but he's the best out there.
But
my
I
opinion.
don't think they're going to win the Big East this year. I hope they don't win the Big East this year. I would love to see them go to like the Sweet 16 and then lose. That would be great, just to see him in his antics when he loses, because he puts on a show, which is hilarious.
But it's amazing to me. St. John's is leading the Big East right now.
As they should. One, you got Rick Pitino, who's a very good head coach, and number two, St. John's that's their NIL, man. They want to get players there in New York, and they're the best team in not only the city but probably the state. Because Syracuse.
Guess what happens? Guess what happens when you give Rick Pitino players?
He wins games.
He wins games, and lots of them, right? And his pressure defense is to me. If I was going to coach a team of basketball right now, I would coach exactly like Pitino. Offensively, defensively, everything would be predicated off the press, right? We'd take shots, early shots off the break. It would be constant pressure, 40 minutes of hell, like him and Nolan Richardson, and we put all the pressure we could on your guards and make it ugly, win or lose.
And it's funny, you guys were talking about Syracuse earlier, but man, you talk about. I hope they're really enjoying the money that they're getting by being an ACC conference member, because football drives everything. Even though Syracuse football hadn't been much in a long, long time, whereas Syracuse basketball with Boeheim was relevant for 40 plus years, however long he was there. But now Syracuse is bottom tier in the ACC. They're one game under 500 total, and they're 2 games under 500 in the conference. I bet you if you talk to Syracuse basketball fans, and that's real, let's be honest, they're more of a basketball school than they are a football school. They probably wish they were still in the Big East, because they'd be competitive in the Big East versus being in a conference with, they're going to play Cal in basketball. And, being able to recruit the New York market like they used to be able to do, not so easy anymore, because these kids know they're not playing, the Big East schools. They're playing North Carolina, Florida State, now Cal, SMU. That's not a draw for that talent from New York City, because they're not going to be seen. When you were playing a Georgetown, a Villanova, a Boston College, a Providence, you were going to see all those games, and those were easy games for friends and family members to travel to. No one is going to come see you play, Virginia Tech. They're just not. So I think Syracuse might have got the money by going to the ACC for football, but they've lost a lot of credential as far as the game of basketball.
Yeah, I don't know that if it was really about Coach Boeheim. I don't know if it was about the program. And sometimes when it's like that, you have to get equally as powerful coach. Or find a young guy that's just out of his mind good. And plus, then you got to support it with resources. And I don't know how much they're doing, but I know that money talks in New York City. And if you want to have a great basketball team in the ACC, having a New York City point guard running your show is no bad idea. And that's what they got to do.
Yeah, Syracuse really needs to bump up their recruiting in New York. They're right now they're 9-10, which for a proud program like Syracuse, who's won a national title in the last 20 since the year 2000, which not a lot of programs can say, they have a national title. They've fallen on hard times.
I agree.
And that's sad to see, because that program used to be year in and year out. Man, we got to play Syracuse. That's going to be tough. Now you're like, yeah, I'm not. And the same has happened with Virginia. Now that Tony Bennett left, they have slid all the way damn near to the bottom of that conference. And the same has happened with Miami when they lost. What's his name? He resigned. Help me out.
Not Leonard Hamilton. The one whose son played back in the day. I don't know.
He got that small school to the Final Four. Help me out.
Yeah, Drew.
Older guy.
Yeah, I know. I can see his name's on the tip of my tongue, and he said it. He's the one that come
Larranaga?
on.
Yeah, Larry
Yeah,
Nagas.
yeah, Coach Larranaga. So he come on.
Miami hasn't won a game in conference this year. They're 0-8. Which is,
Yeah, now he's the one that came on TikTok and said that he didn't like the whole NIL and the lack of amateur status and all that. He was totally against the way things were, so he didn't want to coach no more.
which is hilarious because he got his payday, and now that the players can
that's
get
true.
their payday, it's funny. But Miami should not be this terrible in basketball.
They were prior to Leonard Hamilton.
It's you're a college kid. There's not a lot of places you'd rather be than on South Beach,
That's
for
true.
your college days. And then you get to play basketball at Miami. I mean, that's crazy to me that, program, right now, here's a shocking thing in the Atlantic Coast Conference right now. This is their first year. Sitting tied for fifth in the conference is Stanford. Stanford men's basketball is not that great of a program, to be honest.
It has
They
been
haven't
a good
for a
program.
long time. That just tells you the ACC, not only were they down in football this year, but they're looking, other than Duke and Louisville, it's not a great conference for basketball.
They've lost all their coaches, right? The guys have retired. Roy Williams is gone. Coach K is gone, but obviously he's been well replaced. And then Clemson's interesting. I think Louisville's good, but not Final Four, maybe not even Elite Eight. Wake Forest has coaching and some players. I think they've got a chance. SMU, I don't really know. I don't think they did that good in the non-conference, but I'm with you. The league's down. When North Carolina isn't great, now North Carolina isn't bad, and I like Coach Davis, but I'm with you, man. The ACC, you'd think they'd be rocking this world. Is the NIL affecting them too? Is it saying the same thing as in college football that
I definitely think there's something to it. I mean, I look at it like this, and maybe you guys could disagree with me, but I have never seen, and we're just talking basketball here right now, right? We're just talking basketball. I have never seen the SEC as powerful as they are in basketball. And I've never seen the ACC as decrepit as they are in basketball. And I think NIL has a big role in that. I mean, right now, I would tell you that Georgia, who's, middle of the pack in the SEC, Georgia would probably be giving Duke a run for its money in the ACC. And in the past, you would never have said that in basketball.
No.
Georgia's never been much of anything in basketball, other than the few years they had Dominique Wilkins in college. But
Oklahoma's 13th in the conference, and they're 14-4.
Wow.
Oklahoma is 13th in the conference and 14-4 overall.
Right. I mean, and Oklahoma would probably be one of the best teams in the ACC. Would you disagree or no?
I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Top 3 or 4 for sure.
Yeah. I mean, so the ACC, I think, has an NIL problem. I think they have a regional problem. I think you have a problem with all the travel to all these different places. I think that's a factor in kids committing to those. Duke is always going to be Duke. Duke will be Duke. North Carolina will be back. I know they're having a down year this year. North Carolina will be back. But other than that, and Louisville, because Louisville can get the players that Kentucky doesn't want, and so they'll still be good. But other than those three, as far as a basketball league, it's not looking good for the ACC. It's not.
What are we looking at as far as the games coming up? What's the big games coming up, guys? Does anybody have a schedule?
I got a kid.
Let's check
Go for it,
Saturday.
Sean. Yes.
No, go ahead, Dr. Balls. I'll follow up after you.
So tonight we've got a great game. We had a great game between Memphis and Wichita State, and Memphis pulled it out. Michigan and Purdue tomorrow at 8 o'clock. And so let's get to Saturday. Saturday's real interesting to me.
Biggest game
But
on Saturday, in my opinion, Maryland at Illinois. I think that's going to be a great game.
Maryland, Illinois would be a great game. Yes, absolutely. And those teams are trying to vie for better position. I don't think Houston and Kansas is going to be a great game.
Oh, that's going to be a haymaker for sure. Houston right now hasn't lost a game in the Big 12. They're unbeaten in conference.
Maryland, Illinois is at the half right now.
Oh, good. Hell yeah. How's that going, Ed?
38-35 Terps.
Yes.
But remember, Illinois is a second-half team.
Oh,
Tennessee and Auburn.
Look, I'm not celebrating over a 3-point
Yeah, I'm seeing that. Maryland, Illinois is at halftime right now. And, yes, I think both them teams are decent, man. I think both them teams would rule in the ACC right now. They'd be right under Duke. And
So Ed, when Michigan's not playing basketball, are you a Terps fan?
So when they're playing football, I root for Michigan. When they play
Because he
each
knows
other,
Maryland has no shot. No shot.
when they play in basketball, it's very difficult for me to watch.
I got you.
Because he remembers the great Lenny Bias and knows that Lenny Bias would have destroyed Michigan. Mighty Michigan. And then Chris Webber decided to take a timeout when they didn't have any timeouts.
Guess who comes into my office a few times every year?
who's that?
Ernest Graham.
Damn.
There you go.
That's awesome, man. Do you ever talk to him about those games and stuff?
Of course, the first time I met him, I was like, because he owns a lot of property in Baltimore, so he comes to see me. I was like, yeah, I remember that game where you beat NC State 124-110. You had 44, and he's like, you remember that? I'm like, yeah.
It's because you're old, Ed.
Yeah,
Guys,
that too.
I gotta tell you about this. So there's this old man that was just kind of maybe in his 80s, just roaming around the holler down in South Central Kentucky, about 20 miles south of Lexington, around Nicholasville. When I was living down there, and he was just a river rat, just all around the place, running around barefoot in his set overalls, no shirt on, and like his 80s and stuff. And he'd come out and hang out with. There's like a place on the river where people kind of hung out at this guy's house and just kind of laid around and done was hillbillies basically, and chicken fighting and stuff like that going on. You know what I mean? And there was a bootlegger and so forth. And so I rode in there one day and I'd seen him around and stuff, and he was sitting with a bunch of guys, and he said, "Oh yeah, I played for Kentucky under Adolph Rupp, and we won a national championship." And I'm like, "Oh really?" I said, "Hell yeah, man!" I said, "I think that's cool." And everybody said, "Oh, he's full of shit. This old man don't know nothing. He's a bum down here running around and shit like that." And I'm not going to give you his name, but I swear it's true what I'm telling you, right? Because I don't want to hurt his family or nothing if they didn't know how he was living. You know what I'm trying to say? And he hell, the man jumped up barefoot, and there was a basketball on the side of the barn. He was making hook shots from like 25 feet. I'm like, what the hell, man? and I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. I said, I love hook shots. I said, man, but I'm watching you. You're pure, man. Kareem Jabbar would fucking be jealous of that shit, man. And
hold on, Bob. Bob, what kind of drugs were y'all doing?
Oh, there was all kinds, I'm sure. There's much marijuana for sure. And so anyway, I found out, right? And he died, and somebody come and got him, and it was a paper, and he really was who he said he was, and he played for the Finland Five.
Hold on, he died and somebody come and got him? What, at the party?
No, he died not at that party that time, but he died. He died down on what they call River Road in the middle of nowhere on the Kentucky River, and they went and come.
Little known fact: when you die, they always come and get you. Somebody does.
Well, not necessarily. There was a guy that lived on my farm in Jessamine County named Mohawk, and I kind of inherited him when I bought that farm. And he lived in the tobacco stripping room, and Mohawk didn't have nobody or nothing, and except for his friends in the world of being a river brat and a hillbilly, and he didn't have no money or nothing, and he was dying of cancer, and he he told me that he'd been cured. Right, and he went to town, spent every dime he had getting drunk as he could, and he died. Right, so the county calls me. He goes, "Well, it says here that we got something. Somebody says his last wishes was buried on your farm." I'm saying, okay. And there was a 1775 through 1890 graveyard on top of the mountain. I thought that's what we was going to do. They said, well, you got to have this regulation, that regulation, whatever. Then I remember what Mohawk told me. Mohawk said he wanted a Viking funeral, by God, right on top of that hill. And I said, well, I'll tell you what. I said, I'm going to do. I said, he said he wanted a Viking funeral. We're going to have it. I want to put a pile of wood up like you ain't never seen. And I'm going to have a fire that you'll be able to see all the way to Lexington and Richmond. And on top of my mountain, and y'all can come watch it if you want to. They said that'll cost you $15. And I signed their permit. I paid them their $15, and we laid out Mohawk up on that finely placed rack of logs that were so big they had to be placed with industrial equipment, right? And we saved on top. And we had a fire, and we partied around until it was gone for 3 days.
Y'all didn't cook marshmallows on that fire, did you?
Nobody cooked nothing on that fire, brother.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that.
That fire was all consuming.
I don't care how many drugs I was doing.
Yeah,
That fire was that fire was all consuming, and it was the hottest thing, one of the hottest things I've ever seen in my life. And it was all consuming, purifying level of fire. You know what I'm saying?
I have one question before I click the outro in, Bob.
What's that?
What is the distinctive difference between a river rat and a hillbilly? Because that's what you've been referring to tonight. River rats and hillbillies.
So a river rat is somebody that lives in the Kentucky River Palisades, which is like a little world all of its own, right? And they're not really hillbillies because it's nothing but a bunch of cliffs and a river, right? And it's a certain kind of outlaw existence that is probably 250 years worth of culture of people that don't care about society or work or anything like that. And then hillbillies has been disparaged in many different ways, but what a hillbilly is somebody that was born into an Appalachian level of poverty in a place where there's no hope.
All right, so number-wise, more river rats or more hillbillies up in your area, Bob?
No, in my area here, there's no river rats because I'm in Eastern Kentucky at Appalachia. So it's about. I'm sure there's transplanted river rats somewhere. I know one, but it's hillbillies. But the difference between hillbillies and river rats is the hillbilly has to go to Lexington to get work from hundreds of miles away and is willing to do it, where a river rat won't walk his lazy ass 20 miles to Lexington to change his life.
Okay, so the last big movement we had in the country was the hippie movement in the 60s.
We're not going to have a river rat movement.
No. We did a hillbilly movement in the late 20s here, right?
Oh, really? Hell yeah, we can have that. A hippie one, because hippie culture is big in the world of hillbillies.
Be like a hippie slash hillbilly movement.
That's right. That's right.
So Doug, before I know you got to go to bed, but before you go,
no. Ed's got to go to bed. I got to go pour another drink.
All right. Yeah. We got some games this weekend. It's a huge weekend in SEC. And shout out to our listener, Z Paulson. Thanks for letting us know it's already halftime. We didn't get the update here because of our internet, but appreciate it. So shout out to you for listening. This weekend in the SEC, Kentucky's at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, as we talked about earlier in the show, is a bubble team. This would be a huge win in the quad rankings if they could pull the upset off. I know, Bob, you big UK fan. You think Vandy has any shot at all in that old auditorium they call a gym, or what?
Yeah, because it's a hell of a place to play, and Vanderbilt's shown again and again throughout the course of SEC history that they can win against Kentucky in that building. We've got to play a great game because we'll be fighting the crowds, the ref, falling off the edge of the floor, all kinds of insanity.
So you're a little worried, you would say.
Oh, yeah, I'm always worried when they go to Vanderbilt. And that was a joke about falling off the edge of the floor. You know that, right?
Yeah, they got the elevated court there at Vandy. Yeah. One of the, 4 or 5 in college basketball?
Yeah. And
I know Minnesota's got one. I'm trying to remember who else has an elevated floor.
They got it painted in a way where the visitors can't see it, right? But Vanderbilt know because they practice on that shit.
That's right. That's what I do.
We got Lone Star Showdown. Texas A&M is ranked 13th in the country. They're visiting Texas, who isn't ranked. Texas would love to take the shine off the Aggies this Saturday in Austin. How do you see that one going, Doug or Ed or Bob? Anybody?
I mean,
Good on it, Ed.
I'd have to go with A&M. I mean, not knowing much about Texas and knowing that A&M is a solid top 25 team right now.
Yeah, I like A&M in this game as well. I think their guard play is better than Texas's, but Texas is still tough to beat in their building. So I think I like A&M, but I think it's close. I think it's real close.
I like A&M too. They'd have to house them with the refs, I think. That's went on in the SEC this year. Now I know y'all see me
It's
talk
hard
college
as hell
basketball.
in the SEC this year to win in somebody else's gym. You know that.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I rarely go on about officiating and make excuses about officiating. How many times y'all have ever heard me make excuses about officiating?
Not often.
Not often.
I'm not an excuses guy. I will
Doctor,
say though, the amount of free throws for certain teams at home has been interesting thus far.
Dr. Balls, we have a question for you, Dr. Balls, from Z. Paulson is asking who you got in the Purdue Michigan game tomorrow.
I got Purdue by 50.
because Ed is a Michigan fan. Give me Purdue in Mackey Arena. Go Boilers. I mean, it'll be a close game. It depends on which Purdue team shows up. They've won some big games non-conference. They lost some games non-conference. Obviously, they're not the Purdue of last year, not having Zach Edey, but they still have some playmakers. I just think being at home this year has been such a big deal, difference maker, particularly in the SEC, man. Big Ten, maybe not as much, but still to a little lesser extent. But Mackey Gym is a hard place to win, so we'll see. If Michigan gets it done, kudos to Michigan. It's a big feather in their cap if they can go into Purdue and win. But I like Purdue by about 5. Another one in the SEC, ranked matchup, first one. Ole Miss at Mizzou.
Nice. I'm really looking forward to that game. I think Ole Miss is better than people they're kind of sleeping on them because so many other teams in the SEC are getting props. And then on the other hand, Missouri's an interesting story because they weren't expected to do anything. And I really want to see this matchup to see where they're both at. But I think it's at Mizzou.
It is in Mizzou. It's at Como. Yeah.
And they've got a decent fan base, and they'll show up for a ranked game, and it's going to be loud. I think it's going to be great basketball. I've got Ole Miss by last second bucket.
I'm going to disagree. Give me Mizzou, but not by much. Give me Mizzou by 3. I think home court advantage.
On the road in a weekend game, it's hard to win on the road, especially on the weekend.
I'm taking Mizzou because, like Doug said, it's a Saturday. The crowd's going to be rowdy and riled up. And, give me Mizzou. Not by a lot. I think Ole Miss is legit, but I think winning on a road in SEC on a weekend is really tough. So I like Mizzou, but I think it's going to be just a spectacular game. And that leads us into the nightcap, the game of the weekend. Number 6, Tennessee Volunteers at number 1, Auburn Tigers on the Plains. Talk to me, Dr. Balls. What do you like in this one? Who do you like? Probably Auburn because you hate Tennessee, but try to give us your best non-biased approach.
You got to look at this. I mean, Auburn's missing Brune. It's at Tennessee.
No, it's in Auburn. It's in Auburn.
But they're missing Brune, but they played well without him. And Tennessee Ziegler is great. They've got a few other great players. I really do believe Ziegler's truly great, though. And I don't know, man. As far as coaching matchup goes, if I have to give an edge to a team, I've never been impressed with Barnes as a coach, even though he's a great recruiter and I think he's a decent man. On the other hand, Bruce Pearl's a better coach, a decent recruiter, and I wouldn't call him a bad man, but I don't think that.
He wants you to donate blood and pray to Jesus. Come on now.
That's right. So, but I'm gonna have to pick Auburn in this one since it's at home.
Ed, what do you like? Tennessee at Auburn. Who do you got?
Auburn.
Same.
So
Who do you
the
got?
way I'm looking at this is Tennessee's got the edge everywhere except for Jen's going to run her fucking mouth and doom her Vols. Give me Auburn by 10 at home.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think Auburn's going to be ready for this one. It's going to be raucous down there at Neville. Neville's a tough place to play. It's a night game. Yeah, give me Auburn. Give me Auburn by about 12.
Now, there's some factors in this game that's real interesting. I'm sorry, Ed, if I interrupt you. I just want to get this in real quick. So, if you're a team like Auburn and you're at home and you have a bandbox of a stadium that's loud as hell and everybody's in it, it lends into their style of play of creating turnovers, pressure, and tempo. Sorry about that, Ed. I got to go back to you.
No, you're absolutely, Dr. Balls. You're absolutely right. I think turnovers will be key, and I think Auburn is very good this year at creating turnovers. Tennessee, if this was at Tennessee, I might think otherwise. I'd probably lean more towards Tennessee. But being in Auburn and the way Auburn's playing right now, I completely agree with Doug. I think it's 10, 12, maybe even 15. And they've been playing great as of late. And one other one just for Doug, so you can shit on them Bayou Bengals. LSU is at Bama. LSU not ranked. Bama's ranked number 4. How bad are you going to beat LSU, Doug?
You know what?
I have 20. LSU is bad.
That is one of the games I have not. That's one of the teams I have not watched this year is LSU.
They're pretty bad.
I think Alabama's going to win.
I think Alabama's going to kill them. It's at Coleman. It's a night game.
Well, see, I can't say that. But I can't say that. I can't say that, Sean.
By double digits, I'd be shocked.
I can't say that Alabama's going to kill them because if I say that, then here comes LSU. That's the way that shit goes for me. So
Doug is living off the jinxes. He doesn't want to.
Oh, I've seen it so fucking much in my life, and so I'm a real pessimist when it comes to Alabama basketball. I'll believe it when I see it, but I do believe they'll beat LSU. They'll beat LSU by a couple. I mean, it's not going to be. They're not going to blow them out. I think it'll be a competitive game.
I think they beat them by at least 10. That's my prediction. They beat them by 10. Big Ten, not a great weekend in the Big Ten. Only game that I think is going to be intriguing, Nebraska at Wisconsin. Wisconsin is ranked. Wisconsin is likely a couple more wins, and Wisconsin's basically punched their ticket to the tournament. Nebraska's a bubble team. This would be a huge win for Nebraska to get into the tournament. Ed, what do you think about this one?
Wisconsin.
It's at Cole in Madison. Yeah, I'm with you. Wisconsin close, though. Wisconsin by like 6 or 7. Something like that.
Hell yeah.
I think Nebraska hangs around. They're a pesky, annoying team. And then really the only other game I think will be the best game of the weekend is Saturday, ESPN. Number 7 Houston Cougars against the number 12 Kansas Jayhawks. And it is in Lawrence at the Fieldhouse, Fog Allen.
And they blew them out last year at Kansas.
They did. Do you think it's going to happen again, Ed?
I think Kansas will win. It'll be closer, maybe 8 or 10 points.
By that much? You think by that much, huh?
Yeah.
You're not impressed with Houston?
I just think Kansas is tough at home.
Kansas is tough at home, but man, I like Kelvin Sampson in this area of being able to play players up front. I mean, that just opens up so many options for a coach like him, and it's obviously he couldn't get away with doing it under the table. So that now that he can pay him, I bet it takes his ability to coach to a whole new level because he has to have those kinds of players, and so does Bill Self, right? But right at this moment, I think that Houston is slightly more loaded than Kansas. But
and
Kansas
Bill Self a little chippy. Sorry to interrupt you there, Bob, but Bill Self a little chippy with his transfer portal guy from mighty Michigan. He wasn't happy with the big center the other night. He said it was a boneheaded play by Dickinson. My team has beaten Kansas this year, albeit it wasn't at Fog. It was up in Omaha. But I kind of am leaning with Dr. Balls here. I think Houston's going to go up there and shock them in Fog, pull off the upset, and stay unbeaten in conference play. I don't think they play a lot. I don't think they blow them out. But I think Houston figures out a way, tip in last minute, maybe win by a point, maybe 2 points. So I'm going to agree with you, Bob. Go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, you covered it perfectly. You caught exactly how I'm feeling about it. I think it may be a close game, but Houston's going to win it. And I think Houston's trying to transfer the balance of power in the conference. And Houston's been better historically than most people realize. And now that they're in a legitimate conference and they got the money that you can get in Houston towards NIL, they can compete with a true blue blood like Kansas.
Now, Bob, the one team you didn't talk about, and I got one last thing here before Doug shuts us down for the night. I know they're not your team. Kentucky's your team, but you're close to them, and they're ranked. Give us your thoughts. Give our listeners your thoughts on, have you watched any of West Virginia Mountaineers this year? They're ranked 23rd in the country.
Oh, actually, I have watched some of them on local TV for no money. So shout out to West Virginia that I was able to watch one of their games over the Rabbit Ears without having to pay somebody, right? And I thought they were solid at home. And I know that everybody's done with Huggins and he's gone, but they remind me of a Huggins team with their grit on defense. And that's why I agree with Ed earlier, or was it Nick? I don't know who, somebody I talked to here on the cast or in the chats. I agree with them that West Virginia has a decent shot of doing something in the tournament.
Do you believe in them then? You think they could make a tournament like a Sweet 16 run, or what do you think?
I'm thinking right now they're maybe second weekend. I'll give them the second weekend.
Okay. And then for my conference this weekend, the Big East. Let's see if we got anything. Any big games this weekend in the Big East? I think we got one. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Because even though they're the opponent, they're going to play. So UConn is ranked 19th in the country. Obviously, they're the back-to-back defending national champions. They've got a tough little task going to Xavier because the Cintas Center in Cincinnati is one of the tougher buildings to play in. And UConn's kind of coming off some tough games. I want to see how they respond because Xavier will be ready for them. This game is a night game. It's on Fox on Saturday. I don't think you can just pencil this in as a W for UConn going to Xavier. Xavier's gotten better. They're not ranked. I know they're not ranked, but they are, I believe, at least over 500.
Well, you need a win like this bad on the resume if it comes down to Selection Sunday. That's where Xavier's at.
Xavier's a bit of a bubble team. And a win at home over UConn would be a huge win. They're going to be pumped. Trust me. I got a friend of mine. His daughter goes to Xavier. They pack the house, especially for those Saturday games. And there's not a lot going on in Cincinnati anyway, other than that delicious Skyline chili. But this time of year, especially with the Bengals, unfortunately being not in the playoffs. But yeah, Xavier's 12-8. They're a game below 500 in the conference. This would get them back into contention for a potential bubble bid. So if I'm UConn, I would not just think I'm going to walk into Xavier and storm out with a victory. On paper, they are certainly the more talented team, but you know how these conference games go when you're on the road. It's a tough task, and I think that'll be an exciting game for folks that want to check out the Big East Conference.
Yeah, I think that'll be a great game.
UConn loses, Bob. They might fall out of the top 25. Wouldn't that be great?
It would kind of be great because even though I acknowledge I feel he's the best coach right now, I certainly don't like him.
Well, you
I'm
heard
just
what he
kidding.
told that ref the other night, right? Well, I'm the best coach in college basketball. What, man? Toot your horn a little bit, why don't you?
Yeah. My God, man. You know, and Coach Krzyzewski was tough on refs, but I know he never went there. I know he never went, I'm this, I'm that. It was, look, we this, we did that. You did this to us, right? And Coach Krzyzewski, much as I hate Duke, hats off to him for being a fantastic coach, great leader of men. I mean, wow, what a resume of coaches that had connections to Army.
Oh man, you got him and you got the General Bob Knight. You know,
Oh yeah,
that's pretty
and really,
illustrious. It's too bad Army. Let's see, just for kicks and gigs, Bob. Let's see where Army basketball is real quick before we sign off tonight
yeah.
on the cast. Army is. Let's see. Army still. So Army, it's an interesting thing. Army football plays in the AAC, but they don't for basketball. So they play in the, I believe, the Patriot League. Let me scroll down here to the Patriot League of the 31 conferences that I got to scroll through here. So Army's actually not bad this year. Army is sitting second in the Patriot League. They're tied for second. They are one game behind Colgate, the Raiders, who are in first in the Patriot League. But Army is 11-8 overall in basketball. So shout out to Army. Everybody that loves Army, they're 11-8 overall. And too bad for Navy. Navy is 6-14. Too bad for Navy.
All right, guys. So for the cast tonight, here we go.
You are now watching Dr. Balls.
Good night, guys.
Night,
Good
y'all.
night.
Good show.
Great show.